I'm Mark Mansoor, closingbinders.com. Before I actually launch into my presentation, I'd like to tell you about something that happened just today. Earlier, after the plenary session, I identified myself as an attorney and made the comment that file format or the imaging format didn't matter so much because as long as it's legible, you need a person to identify it anyway. You need a witness to say, yeah, that's the document, that's the contract. After the session, I met an attendee, one of my clients actually. He said, I disagree with you because what you're doing is relying on the ignorance of lawyers. I realized that's what I've been doing wrong all this time. So I'm going to offer the perspective of an end user. We don't develop software, we process PDFs. And this is the perspective of somebody who receives a lot of paper, scans it and makes PDF. We receive a lot of PDFs and other files and convert them or process them in some way to get them into a standard format. I hope I don't come off as a cranky old man, but this will be about some of the frustrations I've had and how we've solved those problems. Most of the problems that we encounter come from composite documents, a bunch of PDFs from different sources, different source applications, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, whatever, are converted to PDF by different people on different systems and then merged into one, split apart, merged again. If it works, it's a composite file. That's what we call it. If it doesn't work, we call it a Franken file. And a Franken file can be fixed sort of easily. Just tighten the bolts on the neck. It works. If it's really bad, we call it a PDFing disaster. I didn't know that anyone could go to the ISO committee. I will be there to propose the new PDFD standard. PDFD, PDF disaster. We need to get a little bit of nomenclature out of the way because there is some confusion here. PDFA, you've heard about it now, an archival standard. Not to be confused with PDA, which is the public display of affection. It's discouraged at PDF conferences. You've probably felt the warmth growing in the room. It'll be positively lovey-dovey after lunch. So be forewarned. What's worse than the public display of affection, though, is PDF itself. Some people think it stands for portable document format. It also stands for the public display of fonts. Fonts are the enemy. Especially in Franken files. And there are people here that can get under the hood and can tell you what's happening with the fonts when they break. I have some idea, but you don't want to hear it. Fonts raise an issue, though, because we've heard about how they're cross-platform, these PDFs, how they're self-contained. They work on any system. They're identical where you view them. Yeah, but not always. If the fonts aren't embedded and you're looking at a PDF on a system that doesn't have that font, it's going to look different. It might break. Is it really self-contained, the PDF? Not if it's relying on fonts that you don't have. Not if it's relying on Flash, which is sort of going away, and some PDF documents do rely on Flash. Modern portfolios do. If you don't have Flash installed on your computer, it doesn't work. Everything you've heard about PDF is true, but there are exceptions. My anniversary is coming up. This is Balmoral. It's the font we used on our wedding announcement. I just thought I'd throw it in there. She's great. This is a problem we just recently encountered. We were asked to print a PDF. When we got it, it looked great. we had done something to it. I don't know what, actually. When we printed it, we got all these weird spaces. And out of about a 1,400-page collection of PDFs, it showed up about a dozen times. There was a brand name in the collection of documents. It was brand name hyphen Greek alpha character. Whenever the alpha character showed up, and it showed up in fully justified text, i.e. left and right justified, we would get this. If it was only justified on the left, we didn't get it. This was not on my radar screen until we found it. There's an issue about, again, do they look the same on every system? Even if it's broken like this, you want it to be broken in the right way, identically on every system. Our client called us and said, take a look at this document. They were looking at it in Reader, and they were seeing this. We have pretty much every viewing software at work. I just went to the workstation that was closest. I fired it up in something other than Reader, and what I saw was god-awful, way worse than this, and I'm glad my client didn't see it again. For this one, all we had to do was, we know what we did. We saved it. Somebody sent us a file. We had to rename it. We renamed it by doing a save as. Save as, new file name. All of a sudden, we're getting all of these squares. This is a Talking Heads reference. You can skip the slide. But they all refer, fonts break. Fonts are lazy. I don't know. Fonts do all come with points of view. We got a survey that had lots of attachments. And every time we opened it up, we'd get a notice that there was a broken font in there, although we couldn't see anything. And we didn't break this one. It came to us broken. So we kind of got under the hood, and we found out that the broken font was Wingdings, which I didn't know even existed, and I don't know why architects are using them. We also found out that that PDF was created on a Macintosh, and Wingdings on a Macintosh is spelled wing space ding. Wingdings on a Windows computer is all one word. That was enough to throw the font error. That's their point of view. Wingdings is spelled one way, it's spelled another. There was good by the way, I mean, we all have that too. I'm marked with a K. I don't believe marked with a C is even a word, but
it's an acronym.
But it's an acronym for, oh, this is the ignorance of lawyers guy. It is a point of view. They don't do what you want them to. At my son's club, by the way, Talking Heads reference, a guy told me he wasn't on the Facebook, and it was awful. I said, no, it's not the Facebook. It's Facebook. It's not the Google, and it's not the Talking Heads. It's Talking Heads. You have this problem, you can refry. That's basically printing to PDF from a PDF. What you can also do is rasterize, which basically is saving it as a TIFF file. It's sort of a more drastic way of refrying. You can print it. Sometimes these documents will print even though you can't alter them. So they'll print and it won't be broken, then you scan it. Pre-flight software can sometimes fix this. There's pre-flight software built into Acrobat. Sometimes it fixes it, sometimes it doesn't. More specialized software is usually just a superset of those same pre-flight routines. And they will go through it, find the mistakes, and sometimes fix them. I was using very expensive software to do just that the other day. It found an error, asked if I wanted to fix it. I said yes. It fixed it. I ran the test again, and it had the same error. So, didn't write any of this down. PDFA has caused me problems. I get the business case for it, and I'm in favor of it. I'm not certain it's ready for prime time. because we have run into cases where different PDF reading software interprets the standard differently. All a PDF has to say is, I'm PDFA, and the reading software will consider it that. It doesn't really check to see if it's adhering to the standard. So if you have a link to another PDF in your PDFA document, I'm told that that link should work. But some viewing software will break it on the assumption that that's external content and it should be all self-contained. We have a client that wants PDFA. We have several clients that want PDFA, and they have all created their own internal standard. If it's PDFA and it works for them, it's PDFA. But we don't distribute PDFs to the world at large, PDFA to the world at large, because we can't yet rely on their behavior in the viewing software. File size is a big issue. It's often explained by unnecessary color or gray scanning. This is often an issue with multifunction devices. They probably usually default to color just to keep the users happy, but that creates an enormous file. And it also creates, interestingly, a less legible file. What you really want to do is black and white, or more properly, bitonal. If you're talking about a black and white photo or a black and white movie, you're actually talking about shades of gray. When you scan to bitonal, you're literally doing just on and off information. Paper, black mark. Paper, black mark. That's the crispest way. What we do, if our clients let us, and they all do, is we will scan bitonal even if there's color in the document, as long as the color isn't actually conveying information. Different colored lines on a graph or pie chart conveys information. Pretty headings don't convey information. Save as, garbage collection. Sometimes you can fix an enormous file just by doing a save as, which gets rid of all of the unnecessary content in there. If you had deleted a page, but just saved it and not done a save as, like a Word document, that stuff can still be in there. Yes, sir?
Mark, how do you feel about the optimization feature in Acrobat Professional?
We use it, but we sometimes don't. There are several pages of settings within the optimization, and if you select the wrong one, you can break the file, especially with fonts. So you have to be careful with it. It can, though, reduce file size, but I think file size is better reduced by getting it right in the first time. We did have a document that was over 100 megabytes. A simple save as reduced it by 90%. I suspect that a ton of pages had been deleted. I don't know, but Mark Gavin will be here later from Applegent. He's the redaction expert. I don't know how sophisticated you would have to be to recover that content that was apparently still in there. I don't know if there are confidentiality issues. And I don't know if his software would fix it, but that will be a question I have for him. We have seen surveys, other CAD documents that our client sent to us and didn't know that there were attachments with attachments with attachments. These days, architects build a building. That plan can also spit out hundreds of pages of reports. How many steel beams you need, how many nails, I mean, literally everything. So we said, remove the deleted content, convert to grayscale or bitonal. Often the best way is just to refry it, or even print it and photocopy it. For some reason, black and white photocopiers have very good bitonal algorithms. Quickly, a lot of you know that almost every state has passed personal information laws. Personal information generally is someone's name coupled with an account number, social security number, driver's license number. These show up in transaction documents sometime. Acrobat will allow you to search not just for a particular social security number, but for those numbers in general. We're experimenting with our clients right now to see if that's a service that some of them would need. We do know that certain New York State securities filings require the Social Security number of the principals. So, you deal with them the way you already deal with them. Why can't you edit this? Well, it's not intended to be editable. You can edit them, not very well, but you can't do whole-scale editing to a PDF document. Why does it look different than what I expected? Fonts, other things, Flash. Why can't I email it? It's way too big. This doesn't work anymore. I used to say, a client gave that line to me, by the way. They called and said, what's with this thing? And before I could even get an answer out, he said, is it just a PDF thing? And I said, yeah, it's just a weird PDF thing. So all sorts of little things will happen. And it's software. It's not this immutable, etched in stone kind of thing. It's executing instructions when you look at it. It's not a picture. There are instructions. Oh, and it's how it's been sold.
People think this is fixed in stone and unchangeable, it works all the time.
Yes, and it can be subtly different in ways. Sometimes when people are comparing documents to see that they're same, so I learned this in the law firm, you put them right next to each other and you look for the last line, the last word in every line. Sometimes, if somebody PDF'd it on one computer and the last thing they did was use one printer, and then somebody else PDFs the same thing and the last thing they had printed before that was a different printer, the PDF is going to rely on the kerning or the spacing of the fonts that that printer did. Every now and then, the line breaks will be a little bit different. So, if you have any questions.
Mark, what is the business of closed finance?
We work primarily for law firms, sometimes other investment companies for larger transactions, and they send us paper and other PDFs. We try to normalize it, and then we produce disks or flash drives for them to redistribute to the parties to the transaction. That's, by the way, why I'm very hesitant to use PDFA, because we don't know where they're going. Yeah.
I think one of the main problems is the Adobe Reader itself, because we are all professionals here. We work with professional tools like Adobe Acrobat and things like that.
Right.
But maybe 100 million people out there are using Adobe Reader, and Adobe made the reader very forgiving because they don't want to have calls all the time. So I'm quite sure if you take a random ASCII text and give it to Adobe Reader, it will display something. Yes.
Yeah.
And then people take this and say, look, Adobe Reader is displaying it. It must be correct. It must be like that. And then you start discussing. And Adobe Reader is the worst tool to prove anything.
So we test in Adobe Reader and in Acrobat because that's what most of our clients use. There are a couple other very major alternative reading readers. We test in those, but we can't always officially support that because we don't know everything that's out there. One thing I was going to ask Bruno, I didn't get a chance. There's a lot of work on the document standard, what a PDF is supposed to be. I was going to ask whether there is any work being done on a viewer standard. So.
We are always getting PDF resources to use it in our output documents, and from time to time we say, sorry, this doesn't work because it's not PDF, and then the customer says, look, it's in the reader, just it must be PDF.
It's a real problem. They're looking at something, yeah.
Everybody would be happier.
Yeah, Fred.
So we are indirectly, I'm from the Economic Development Corporation in New York City, we are indirectly a client of Mark's. One of the functions we use, and we've got Mark does for us, is this portfolio technique, which is available in Adobe Acrobat Professional. I don't know if it's available in the other software products. But what we found is that over the 3 or 4 generations that Adobe has offered Portfolio, they have changed it so much that we don't trust it anymore.
Yeah, I think they've wrecked
So
that.
we actually save all of our files twice. We save them as Portfolio version and separate individual PDFA files, just because the records in question tend to be long-lived, so decades plus. And we just don't, we're not sure that, 15 years from now, we won't have changed it so much, that is the Portfolio function, that it'll be unusable.
Yeah, I'm not crazy about it. It used to be great. In principle, it's a great idea. For the end user, the Portfolio is a very convenient, user-friendly way to present a collection of separate documents. I don't know, it was version 8 or 9 where they added a Flash interface right after they bought Macromedia. Now they've said they're deprecating Flash. They used to include Flash in your installation. They don't anymore. I just built myself a new PC. I installed Acrobat. I tried to open a Portfolio, and I was like, oh yeah, I have to install Flash now. So I just left work early that day.
But if you say the statement, it's just a PDF thing, doesn't work anymore.
Right.
It's like saying it's just a Windows thing.
Yeah. People want things to work these days. You could get away with that a while ago.
You talked about kind of three things in just the composite file, your franking file, your PDF file. The franking file, I'm assuming that's kind of a street level thing. You're going to get that fairly regularly, right?
We get it all the time, and it is a street level thing, absolutely.
So, what do you end up doing with that? Is it workable? Is it something that you have a process documented to defend it when necessary?
We have processes documented, but we really have to improvise a lot of the time. Primarily, in fact, maybe the only real problems we've had are with fonts or with certain image compression formats. Some readers don't like what they call MRC, which I believe stands for mixed raster content. So we just turn that off in our software. We don't use MRC. But what we do is, if we get it, and by the way, I mean, if you're processing, we process tens of millions of documents. If you're processing hundreds of million, or pardon me, pages, if you're doing hundreds of million, that's a different story. We handle individually each file. We will sometimes just print it and scan it. Sometimes we'll use Callus software or PDF tools to do a more industrial pre-flight. Sometimes that'll fix it. But when it's coming from 6 or 7 different sources and then is compiled into one, you can get all sorts of problems. You can get font problems in scanned images that were OCR'd because even though you're not seeing those fonts, it's apparently trying to replicate them under the hood. That's what it does to read them.
Mostly scanned images that you're encountering with versus?
It's mostly from electronic native documents. Yeah. Again, they just come from, people print a PDF, but there are all sorts of components out there that you can install into your document management system, and they will use that to create a PDF. Some of them, my experience is if you look at a PDF, you do Control-D, and you find out where it was made. If the producer of the PDF sounds like it's from another planet, and some of them really have names that imply that, then the PDF you get is going to look like it was from another planet. So I am a fan of the larger, more well-known vendors, frankly. Yeah?
On some of the issues that you're seeing there. Don't you see it's more of a, as you said, you're processing hundreds of pages on a daily basis and inserting, extracting, whatever it is, but it's the actual, the compatibility issues between the electronic documents more so, because if you say the newer versions of, let's say, newer PDFs today, you see more issues with them than old legacy type issues. Is it more of a PDF or digital? I'm thinking of more of a compatibility issue with different documents inserted. As you said, maybe someone put it to a print to maybe more versions of a PDF, different versions, and you're combining them into a single document. And that's causing more of a problem than, let's say, more recent documents, which is more up to standard and more up to standard.
Yeah, that's exactly right. If we get a PDF that was created from one native app, there's very rarely a problem with it. It's when our clients have pieced together. For example, you create a Word document for a contract, and then a bunch of signed signature pages come in. Those get added to that PDF. Then they need to add exhibits. The exhibits are spreadsheets, they're PowerPoint presentations, they're surveys, all created from different formats using different PDFing software. You combine those, that's where we see the problems. And by the way, I don't know if it's more common or not. What's more common for us is we're receiving more native electronic documents than we used to in the past. We almost all, 10 years ago, all we would receive is paper. We had control over the process. We never had a problem. Mm-hmm.
So Mark, are you saying that from your perspective, you would prefer the client to send you the individual Word, PowerPoint, Excel files, and then you'll convert them to PDF? Is that better than the client attempting to convert them to PDF and then sending you the PDFs for you to further refine?
Well, we try to not ask our clients to change the way they work, so we deal with it. If we PDF something, then we're assembling their document for them in a sense, and these are essentially legal documents that we're relying on the 10 years, so I'm very hesitant to do that. Very. Uh-huh.
With people becoming more comfortable with cloud concepts, are your customers asking for anything that you deliver on disks and flash drives? Are people asking for a kind of online for them, a business model?
We don't provide our own cloud solutions right now, but we provide many different formats to our client specification so it will work in their own cloud system. Most of our clients, again, are law firms, and they want to host their documents. So it's not really something that I've had to deal with. But cloud systems do present problems of their own. Our standard format, because these files, these transactions can be anywhere from 1,000 to 40,000 pages. You can't have a single PDF up there like that. Our format links between documents. Many of these cloud systems will break those links, so we have to do something else in order to make them be able to navigate the files. Mm-hmm.
I think to go off of his question, we're also a group of attorneys too, and we focus on FACTA, we work with the IRS, foreign governments, and you're starting to see they wanted this, but they also want on the cloud for the easy exchange of the view this data. But the problem comes in, if it's on the disk and you send it to that, can that be encrypted, and how can I view that PDF on there, and what type of problems am I going to experience when I decrypt that, especially if they're using Reader, Acrobat, whatever the case is with it. Right now there's a push between we want both, but we're hesitant to adopt the cloud.
Yeah, when we distribute on disk or flash drive, we can encrypt the documents in a few different ways. Acrobat's encryption is very good if you use a strong enough password. We distribute collections of documents, and again, it's very frustrating that we really can't use a portfolio, because if you could rely on flash and we're going to be future-proof, that's a great way for us to distribute collections. There's other encryption software out there that we use, and there's also these different file transfer services that most of our clients are comfortable with. This has been fun. Thank you very much.